and welcome to Cherry Pie Math. This video is going to go over interpreting equations and the different parts of one. So to start, one of the most crucial parts of mathematics is the order of operations, which is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Whenever we have any kind of mathematical sentence where we're applying operations, we need to do it in this order. Not only does it just keep it consistent throughout the world, but it also it helps the math make sense because it gives things in order. One of the things that I love about math that helped me to choose this as my major was that it always has an order. It has a way to do things and this is how the puzzle pieces click into place. So if you don't feel comfortable with PEMDAS, I would recommend going back and watching the video about that so that you feel more comfortable about it because it will help. Okay, so here I have 6 things. 4 of these things are equations. So pause the video and circle the ones you think are equations. Okay, so if you circled these 4, you'd be correct. And one of the biggest giveaways that they're equations is this equal sign here. So an equation is a mathematical statement with an equal sign where the two sides are equivalent, meaning that they equal to the same thing. So a mathematical statement with an equal sign where the two sides are equivalent. So if I was to make some example equations without variables, for example, 2 plus 2 equals 4. That is an example equation. Or, I don't know, if I did 100 minus 20 and I got 80. That's an example without variables because it has an equal sign and the two sides are equivalent. If I was to put this on a scale, 2 plus 2 is the same amount as 4. If I was to use variables, it might look like 3x minus 8 equals to 7, for example. Or 5x squared plus 6 equals 11. So both sides are equal to each other because of this equal sign. So if I was to put it on a scale, both sides would be equal to each other. A lot of what you're going to be doing in the rest of your math classes is trying to find what that variable is equal to in order to make both sides even. Because, like, let's say I put in 7 right here, this would not be equal to this. So equations have to have the same value on both sides of the equal sign. So there are different parts of an equation. The first part is this number in front of the x. This is called the coefficient. This one here is called the variable. And then these are both called constants. And constants means that there's no variable attached. It's always going to be the same number. This one is different. Together it's called a term. Because it consists of the coefficient and the variable together. The constants don't have any variables next to them. This will always just be -3, and this will always be 33. If I was to write it out, it would kind of look like x plus x plus x plus x because there are 4 x's. And then, like I said, the constants don't change, so that's just still -3, and that's still 33. And in later videos, I'm going to show you how to solve an equation like this. But for now, we're just understanding the different parts. So let's try it again. With this one. This one actually has 2 coefficients because, again, a coefficient is anything attached to a variable. So the first coefficient is 3 because that's the number in front of the x. But then if we look at the y, there's a 2, but there's a minus in front. Whenever there's a minus, that always is attached to that coefficient. So the other coefficient is actually -2. The minus sign, imagine it's like plus -2y like this. Because the negative isn't naturally occurring, I guess you could say. It's the positive naturally occurs, and then the negative is attached to the coefficient. So if there's a minus sign, you attach it to the other coefficient, and you call it a negative. We have obviously two variables, x and y, but we only have one constant. There's only one number without any variables, and that's 4. This is kind of a trickier one. This about the variables equal to. So let's go back to the other one and see. We don't actually have a great method for finding what x is equal to yet. That will be in my next video. But we can guess and check. So for example, I know that this is going to be 33. So let's try a big number. Let's try 10. So 4 times 10, because remember, you always multiply a coefficient by the variable. 4 times 10 is 40, minus 3 is 37. That's too big, so let's go a little bit smaller. 4 times 9 is 36, minus 3 equals 33. So that means that x is equal to 9. That is the variable that makes this equation true. Here, there's actually an infinite amount of possibilities, because let's say this is equal to 1. So 3 times 1 is equal to 3, minus 2y is equal to 4. Then you would have one value for y, whereas if I could say x is equal to like 7, and then I would have a different y. This one's, if you have more than one variable, you actually can't solve it using one equation only. So I'm just going to say NA for not applicable here. You can't find it because there's too many combinations. So some things to remember, guess and check is what you're going to be using for now. It's kind of slow. That's why we have better methods that we'll learn later. Coefficients are any number that's attached to any variable. It doesn't matter how many variables you have. Any number at the that's being attached to a variable is a coefficient. You can only find one variable in one equation. So in the first one, we could find the x because there was only one variable. But in the second one, we couldn't because there was 2. And always use PEMDAS when you're substituting in a number just to check it. So like here, I used PEMDAS. Here I did 4 times 9, which is multiplication, and then minus 3. So just make sure you use PEMDAS whenever you're substituting.